Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're doing something a little different by request. We're going to be talking about Stormtroopers. I'm going to be referencing the fandom.com Wikipedia page for this, if you want to know more. You are Stormtroopers. You are the keenest weapon in the Emperor's arsenal. Do not fail him. Do not fail me. Alicia Beck. Stormtroopers, known as TK Stormtroopers and as TK Troopers during the early Imperial era, remnant Stormtroopers after the Battle of Endor, and colloquially referred to as Bucketheads, were the infantry soldiers of the Galactic Empire. The members of the Imperial Army's Stormtrooper Corps served on the front line as elite shock troops, and their loyalty to the Empire was absolute as a result of their training. The Stormtrooper armor that they wore consisted of white plastoid plates over a black body glove, and their standard weapon was the E-11 blaster rifle. In addition to the standard trooper, various specialized units, such as scout troopers and snow troopers, comprised the ranks of the Stormtrooper Corps. Possibly taking their name from the storm of galactic history, Stormtroopers served the Empire since its inception at the end of the Clone Wars, when the Sith Lord Darth Sidious declared himself Galactic Emperor. Just so we're clear, that's not where the storm comes from. Stormtroopers were Imperial German troops, Sturmtruppen, who raided trenches with automatic weapons, pistols, and grenades. That's where the name comes from. The Galactic Republic was supplanted by the Empire, and the clone troopers who formed the backbone of the Grand Army of the Republic became the first generation of Imperial Stormtroopers. During the early years of the Imperial era, the cloning operation on Kamino was shut down as the Empire turned to conscription and recruitment in order to fill the Stormtrooper ranks. The remaining clones were retired from service due to their rapid aging, their legacy inherited by natural-born humans, who were also trained to render total allegiance to the Emperor and his new order. Bucketheads were spread throughout the galaxy during the Emperor's reign, from the Imperial capital of Coruscant in the core worlds, to occupied planets such as Lothal and Tatooine in the Outer Rim territories. They fought many battles against the forces of the Alliance to restore the Republic during the Galactic Civil War, including the Battle of Scarif, the Battle of Hoth, and the Battle of Endor. Shortly before the Battle of Yavin, Princess Leia Organa was captured by Stormtroopers who served under Darth Vader, the Emperor's Sith apprentice. However, Organa was rescued by Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, who, disguised as Stormtroopers, infiltrated the first Death Star. The Emperor stationed a legion of Stormtroopers on Endor to protect the shield generator of the second Death Star, although they were defeated by the Alliance's Ewok allies. With the Emperor's death, Counselor to the Empire Gallius Rax, took control of the Imperial Loyalist forces, which rallied to his homeworld of Jakku to make a final stand against the New Republic. After losing the Battle of Jakku, the Empire signed the Imperial Instruments of Surrender and the Galactic Concordance, and its Stormtrooper forces were consequently demobilized as part of the New Republic's terms for peace. Despite this, a number of Imperial remnants continued to make use of Stormtroopers as soldiers or mercenaries in the Outer Rim, including Moff Gideon's faction, as well as the remnants on Morak. By the last days of the New Republic era, a new generation of Stormtroopers emerged as soldiers of the First Order. History. Origin. At the dawn of the Galactic Empire, the first generation of Stormtroopers consisted of cloned soldiers who served the Galactic Republic during the Clone Wars. Under the leadership of the Jedi Knights, clone troopers fought the droid armies of the Confederacy of Independent Systems across the galaxy. Though they were loyal to the Jedi as well as the Republic, the clones were secretly programmed to obey Order 66, a military directive authorizing the complete liquidation of the Jedi Order. With the exception of a handful of survivors, including Jedi Generals Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi, most of the Jedi were killed by their own troops at the command of Darth Sidious, the Dark Lord of the Sith who controlled the Galactic Senate through his public persona of Supreme Chancellor Sheev Palpatine. With the Empire claiming the galaxy was brought from chaos to order during its rule, one account of the origins of the name Stormtrooper was that it came from the troops emerging from the storm of galactic history. Soldiers of the Empire. Ending the Clone Trooper program. Surely you realize the precarious state this newly formed empire is in. Clone troopers will be needed to maintain order throughout the galaxy. Indeed, a service conscription soldiers could provide at half the cost. The skill level and efficiency of our clones is far superior to that of any recruited body. Lama Su and Wilhuff Tarkin. The clone troopers enforced Emperor Palpatine's reign during the early days of the Imperial era, having become the first generation of Imperial Stormtroopers. No longer beholden to the authority of Jedi officers who exercised restraint in warfare, the clones utilized brutal tactics under the leadership of Imperial officers and governors, suppressing dissent and imposing the new order over the known galaxy. Immediately, the Empire moved to remove sedition within its legislative branch, as clones were deployed to carry out the senatorial arrests, rounding up a total of 63 senators who were subsequently claimed to be Jedi sympathizers. The end of the Clone Wars, however, fulfilled the sole purpose behind the creation of the clone troopers. Although Palpatine had supported the Kaminoan government's clone trooper program during his final years as Supreme Chancellor, his priorities shifted away from the expensive cloning production after becoming the Galactic Emperor. The Prime Minister of Kamino, Lama Su, maintained that the clone troopers possessed unrivaled combat skills and discipline. In addition, Lama Su believed that his clones were critical to the security of the fledgling empire. Despite this, Admiral Wilhuff Tarkin was confident that the Empire would be better served by a force of non-clone conscripts, which he saw as a cost-effective way to enforce order in the galaxy. In addition, the clones' accelerated aging process was further incentive for the Empire to decommission its clone units in favor of natural-born humans. Although Tarkin supported conscription over cloning, clone troopers were initially retained by the Imperial Army that replaced the Grand Army of the Republic, but rumors spread through the ranks that the cloning facilities on Kamino had been shut down. By the later Imperial era, it was rumored the Stormtrooper Corps had been established within the Imperial Army by a group of clone commandos. The ranks of the Stormtrooper Corps swelled with conscripts and volunteers who sought to carry on the legacy of the clones that had been glorified through wartime propaganda. Introducing service conscription. If it's a fight you want, I hope you brought a better class of soldier than those Stormtroopers. They serve the Empire well, and I have a great many of them. You're gonna need all of them. Rex and Alexander Collis. With the development of the new Imperial war machine, the clone trooper armor was upgraded. Clone commandos were deployed as instructors to the conscripted troops, who were assigned the designation of TK troopers. A secret training facility on Darrow had 50 commandos and 1,000 TK troopers. During the Emperor's reign, stormtroopers were used to bring any remaining separatist worlds into line. As time passed, stormtroopers replaced Imperial Army troopers, the main infantry force of the early Empire, often consisting of local planetary defense forces conscripted into the Imperial military, as mainline combat troops and security forces, making the white armored troopers the backbone of the Empire's ground forces. With a lack of jobs and opportunity in the wake of the Clone Wars, posterity would later come to criticize an aimless generation as complicit in abetting the rapid militarization and recruitment of the Imperial war machine. Nonetheless, several clones remained in service to the Galactic Empire, with some becoming instructors in the Imperial Academy, while a smaller number remained in active duty, such as Sergeant Crest and TX-828, who was still active following the Battle of Yavin. The Sith Lord Darth Vader commanded stormtroopers in his capacity as the Emperor's enforcer. Like other servants of the Imperial regime, stormtroopers referred to Vader by the title of Lord. As learned by the Free Ryloth movement, the loyalty the stormtroopers had towards the Sith Lord bordered on worship. Though Vader enjoyed a rapport with his stormtroopers, Vader was still willing to execute the troops under his command, as he did with many other Imperials. During Ray Sloane's time as a junior officer, a joke spread through the ranks that Vader only kept stormtroopers on the bridge of his starships to drag out the bodies of those he executed. However, the joke lost all humor quickly, as Vader's wrath became all too real for many Imperial personnel. Ultimately, stormtroopers came to represent the face of the Empire, but the soldiers were opposed by a growing rebellion that sought to restore democratic rule to the galaxy. Galactic Civil War. We follow orders. It's the sum and extent of our existence. Say kill and we kill. Say die and our arms fly up and take the blaster fire on full. Watch our pointless existence extinguished on command. Stormtrooper TD-7556. The Battle of Scarif was the first major rebel victory of the Galactic Civil War between the Galactic Empire and the Alliance to restore the Republic. Following the rebel victory at Scarif, Vader commanded a battalion of stormtroopers who served him loyally to capture Princess Leia Organa's Alderaanian corvette Tantive 4 over Tatooine. Additionally, stormtroopers were also used to arrest dissidents on numerous worlds, including Akiva and Zaytuine, while they were also deployed to other conflicts the Empire found itself in. Stormtroopers and Imperial machines quickly put down a long-lasting uprising on Kashaga, fought on the front lines of the Mandalorian Civil War, and combated members of the Grisk hegemony during the Empire's conflict against them. For service in the Galactic Civil War, stormtroopers saw action against the rebellion forces during engagements like the Battle of Gerrel, the Battle of Adalion, the Battle of Hoth, the Mid-Rim Retreat, and the Battle of Endor. During the fighting on Endor in 4 ABY, stormtroopers fought on the ground of the Forest Moon against rebels and Ewoks, while others were stationed aboard the DS-2 Death Star II mobile battle station before it was destroyed. In the immediate aftermath of the battle, Rebel General Han Solo led an assault against a surviving Endor outpost staffed by stormtroopers. while stormtroopers on Imperial capital world of Coruscant fought in the planet's civil war that began directly after the death of Palpatine at Endor. Though disorganized in the wake of the rebel victory at Endor, Imperial loyalists rallied around high-ranking officials such as Grand Admiral Ray Sloane and Fleet Admiral Gallius Rax. The Alliance, having declared itself the New Republic, deployed armed forces to root out the remaining Imperial strongholds on distant worlds like Wheater, Nalal, and Akiva. During the Iron Blockade, stormtroopers in the Anoat sector suppressed any knowledge of Palpatine's death, only to be met by an uprising that sought to liberate the sector. During the conflict, Joval Rick was a 10-year veteran of the Stormtrooper Corps, though he felt no loyalty to the Empire. By this time, stormtroopers were taken out of academy training early to fill up Imperial ranks. As the war continued, many stormtroopers were captured and sent to the New Republic capital of Chandrila as prisoners of war. On one occasion, the New Republic public relations official Olia Chalco personally stopped New Republic soldiers from parading stormtrooper prisoners through the streets of Hana City. Later, stormtroopers fought during the liberation of Kashyyyk and the Battle of Jakku, the Empire's final stand, in 5 ABY. Mercenaries. The Empire fell. With it fell order. With it fell law. They're never coming back. It's taken me a while to realize that. I think I was grieving. I've accepted it now, though. I know what it means. I can do anything I want. Terex, abandoning his life as a stormtrooper. The Empire formally capitulated to the New Republic after the defeat of its loyalist forces on Jakku. With the death of Counselor Rax and Sloane's escape to the unknown regions, Grand Vizier Maz Ameda represented the Empire at the signing of the Galactic Accordance. The terms of the peace treaty included the end of the hostilities between the Empire and the New Republic, the dissolution of the Imperial government, and the prohibition of the recruitment and training of stormtroopers. Additionally, the Empire was forced to dismantle its network of Imperial academies. I'm gonna take a moment because this is, I think, twice now that they've mentioned making stormtroopers illegal. What the hell does that entail? You would think that they would say the recruitment and training of soldiers by any political body other than the New Republic is illegal, but they specifically outlawed stormtroopers. So what makes a soldier a stormtrooper in the absence of the Empire? Obviously, we're looking at right now some New Order stormtroopers, but it's the same concept, right? The New Order is just a stand-in for the Empire. Why do they need to be made illegal? Are they being, like, physically modified in some way that needs to be made illegal? Because the two things that make them stormtroopers, really, as far as we've heard so far, are indoctrination, which anybody can do, and their armor. So, I don't know, did they outlaw indoctrination? Why wasn't that already illegal? Did they outlaw the production of the armor? I mean, it seems like real shit armor, because we see stormtroopers get messed up all the time. Although, you know, there's the, like, oh, well, actually, they're not being killed, they're just being, their armor's, like, absorbing the blast, and they're just being knocked unconscious or whatever. Either way, that's very silly to me, that you need to outlaw, I'm doing air quotes, you can't see me, outlaw stormtroopers. Yeah, that's bizarre. It's not like... That would be like if the US invaded Canada and after we won... No, let's do a better example. There's a rebellion in the United States. The rebellion is victorious, the insurrection is victorious, and one of the things that they do is outlaw the training and recruitment of Marines. Right? There are, in the US, Marines are like our shock troops. They're the front-facing portion of our military. They're the thing that everybody knows, right? I'm spending too much time on this. Sorry, let's keep going. However, not all of the Empire's remnants adhered to the treaty's conditions. Though some stormtroopers, such as Terex and Korlak, deserted their posts, the remaining Imperial forces on Jakku continued to fight for several months, refusing to accept the Empire's defeat. Terex only abandoned his life as a stormtrooper because he felt that, when the Empire had fallen, order had fallen, so he needed to adapt, which led to him becoming the crime lord of the Rank Gang. Another trooper, Sentinel, refused to accept the defeat of his regime and thus continued to fight. In the years that followed the Civil War's conclusion, all that seemingly remained of the former Galactic Empire were the mercenaries many stormtroopers had become, known as remnant stormtroopers, and the warlords they served under, clinging to the last vestiges of Imperial power in the Outer Rim territories, where the New Republic held little influence. Despite the restrictions that the New Republic imposed on the defeated Empire, stormtroopers retained their battle-worn armor, making them look like an undisciplined mercenary force. Nevertheless, some of these mercenary troopers worked alongside more pristine stormtroopers in remnants of the fallen Empire. In particular, stormtroopers served with Imperial remnants like Moff Gideon's faction or the outpost on Morak. By 9 ABY, Gideon's remnant controlled an Imperial base on the planet Navarro that was staffed by stormtroopers and other Imperials. A mercenary group of remnant stormtroopers also acted as security for an Imperial remnant safe house in Navarro City, where they also served as bodyguards for the Client and Dr. Pershing. The Mandalorian bounty hunter Din Djarin killed many stormtroopers while rescuing the Force-sensitive foundling Grogu. In the aftermath of the engagement, Djarin's Mandalorian tribe was nearly wiped out by the Imperial remnant, which also occupied the city with its stormtroopers. When Djarin returned to Navarro with his allies to kill the Client, the Imperial and his personal stormtrooper guard were instead killed when Gideon ordered his personal guard of death troopers to fire into the city's cantina. Gideon was then reinforced by a battalion of stormtroopers from the Imperial base to recapture the child from Djarin. Though the Mandalorian and his allies were forced into the sewers, they ultimately triumphed over the stormtroopers, though their victory came at the cost of the Ugnaught, Queel, and IG-series assassin droid IG-11, the latter having sacrificed himself to take out a stormtrooper platoon. Though he had lost control of Navarro, Gideon escaped the planet to lead his remnant from his Class 546 cruiser, which many stormtroopers and Imperial officers were stationed aboard. They also maintained control of Navarro's Imperial base until Djarin returned for repairs to his ship, the Razor Crest. The Mandalorian and his allies infiltrated the base to detonate it, fighting past the stormtroopers to escape in time. As he fled with his jetpack to protect Grogu, his allies, Magistrate Greef Karga, former shock trooper Cara Dune, and the Mithril escaped from scout troopers and outland TIE fighters aboard a Trexler 908 armored Marauder, taking out all but 2 of the starfighters until Jaren arrived in the Razor Crest. After Jaren took out the 2 fighters, he and Grogu departed for Tython. I think this is where we're going to bring this video to a close. I have one more thing to say about Star Wars in general, though. I love the Star Wars world. I think the concept is so great. I think the designs, the visual designs for most everything is fantastic. George Lucas, when he was being controlled by other people, when other people were around him to tell him to stop being crazy, was really incredible. He was very talented. He ran into, and I don't know if he considered this a problem, but I do, the problem of nerds in the 80s who took this thing that was intentionally vague, right? I mean, Stormtroopers in the original trilogy are just guys in suits. Darth Vader in the first movie is just a dude, right? But people obsessed over everything to the point where now, you know, I basically these last 2 paragraphs that I read were just a recap of the Mandalorian TV show, which I haven't seen, so I won't say anything about that. But there's a military designation for everything, which, in my opinion, is not necessary. It's just not something that is important to the story. It's like if you play, it's like playing Call of Duty for the gunborn, right? Which, you know, I play Ghost Recon Wildlands specifically for the gunborn because that's, you know, I like that, that's fun. But despite how much I enjoy Star Wars in the setting, there's a lot, man. I mean, what the fuck is a Trexler 908 armored Marauder? What is that? Anyways, I don't want anybody to take this like I'm trying to shit on Star Wars, because like I said, I love it. It's just a great example of world building for its own sake, rather than world building in service of a story. Yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. I am going to take more opportunities like this, to branch out in the types of, not types of content, because this is the same type of content, but the things I'm going to be talking about. And I'm noticing that my slideshow's broken, so I'm sorry you've had to be looking at the same image for the last however long. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.